I'm making Luke some more coffee.
I try to do a bit of laundry every day because I also do Luke's laundry, my boyfriend.
I'm gonna go check on Luke and see if he wants anything to eat because he hasn't eaten yet today, and I usually make him breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so he probably needs like something to eat. I've left the house to get Luke's daily coffee. I'm about to go for a little walk, but first I'm gonna make Luke another coffee. Luke just went to dinner with the other two guys and I had to stay back because I'm literally in my PJs and I want to finish packing. I always pack for Luke and I was supposed to go camping with Luke this weekend with like him and his brothers, but they turned it into a boys trip, so all the girlfriends are no longer invited. I'm making Luke this little snack plate. I had to get Luke some shirts. Luke is really busy today anyways. He had a massage this morning, he's at a lunch meeting right now, and then he's working out with his friend later. I figured I would just have a little solo walk and shop day, which is my favorite way to spend time alone because Luke doesn't like to shop with me. I'm like so sleepy right now. Luke loves when I come to his games, so there's really no reason for me not to go. Being tired is not a good enough excuse. I'm gonna go deliver this to Luke, and I have to unpack Luke's suitcase still. Luke said that those brownie bites were the best protein bites I've ever made. Luke and I have plans to go golfing. I am not golfing. Luke went without me. Luke and I, 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 Luke and I.
Have you heard the story about the OnlyFans model who, one night, partying in the desert with her girlfriends, caught the eye of a tall, handsome multi-millionaire? He immediately fell for her, she naturally fell for him, and after a few months, they moved in together, traveled the world in private jets, making memories in their early 20s that most of us can only dream of. It was like overnight she went from an OnlyFans model to the successfully rebranded face of stay-at-home girlfriend content on TikTok. The couple made content about how perfect, aspirational, and completely ideal their love and life together was. That is, until out of the blue, he dumped her. Nope, I'd never heard that story either. But now that I know it, I'm going to give you a deep, dark lesson and cautionary tale into the stay-at-home girlfriend lifestyle, courtesy of the most popular former stay-at-home girlfriend herself, Kendel Kay. But a quick word from our sponsor, Sleep, because I don't think there's anything I enjoy more than sleep. It's what my Voldemort cat and I have most in common, actually. But what we don't have in common is this. Because now, when I go to bed or take a power nap, I am surrounded by complete and utter darkness. Right now, I have two LED panel lights pointing directly at me and I cannot see a thing. This is because Sleep masks are made with superior materials to other brands, which means that they're more absorbent and breathable than the mere cotton fabric you'll find in other sleep masks. I'm also a side and stomach sleeper, but because of the mask's unique C-shaped and contoured cup design, absolutely no pressure is placed on my face. My eyes and long eyelashes aren't being pressed down on. I can blink freely with no obstruction, and I can easily adjust every feature of the mask to fit my head, my eyes, my preferences, my face, my everything. Sleep also gives you a 60-night sleep trial, so you have nearly 2 months to try out what I'm sure will be your new favorite sleep mask. And if you want to find the perfect mask for you, you can take the quick and easy Sleep quiz to find out what kind of sleeper you are, as well as what kind of mask will best suit your personal needs. There are a variety of masks for every need and want, all of them made from the purest, softest, and most durable materials. And as a pro sleeper and napper myself, I could not recommend these masks enough. I always feel refreshed after a sleep, and this mask has made me appreciate how important authentic rest is. All you need to do is click on my unique link down below to get 10% off your order. Shipping across the US is completely free, and Sleep also offers international shipping, so I have each and every one of you covered. Thank you so very much to Sleep and to all of you for your continued support to the channel. It really means so very much to me. Now, stay-at-home girlfriend content is weird. It's weird because there is a bit of a contradiction in its core values and in the very idea itself. And Kendel Kay is a perfect example of this. By definition, a stay-at-home girlfriend is a woman who has the responsibilities of a housewife but lacks the legal protections offered to a housewife. In practice, however, a housewife's responsibilities differ to a stay-at-home girlfriend's. A housewife's responsibilities primarily revolve around childcare, whereas a stay-at-home girlfriend's responsibilities primarily revolve around what I would call boyfriend care. Boyfriend care isn't just cooking for him, cleaning up after him, and doing his laundry. Boyfriend care is essentially what these girlfriends have dubbed self-care. Healthy meal prep, elaborate skincare routines, trips to get beauty treatments, buying designer clothes and feminine brands and products, attending daily exercise classes like Pilates. All of this is done in service of enhancing the ideal feminine that the girlfriend is pretty much expected to upkeep. Basically, becoming the ideal feminine image that her boyfriend desires. The first thing I've noticed about almost every single stay-at-home girlfriend is that she is college educated and has previously worked, hustled, and grinded. Kendel Kay, for instance, went to college and was a cheerleader. She's been a barista. She was working as an Instagram and OF model in Los Angeles. But all girlfriends have two things in common. They don't dream of labor, and in all seriousness, even though they never directly say this or only jokingly infer it, a lot of these girlfriends see their undoubted attractiveness, their femininity, and their beauty as evidence that they shouldn't have a conventional job. They are above labor. Their so-called pretty privilege, as well as social media's enchantment with their physical attributes and beauty and lifestyle, tells them that they aren't destined for a life of work, that they are destined for a softer life, for men providing for them.
I am cursed with being sexy and self-aware. And I know some of you might understand my plight because upon looking at my own comment section, I have some very, very gorgeous girls and gays. And I know it is tough when you know that you are too cute to be at work in some office and you would rather be at home with your hobbies. You know, thanks to my man, I have just had this feminine urge to stay home, bake bread, dance to jazz, learn more K-pop dances, and just mind my business. It's a beautiful thing.
This is Kelly Stamps. I made a video deep diving into her evolution online, and a large part of that evolution has been her transition from a hustling, go-getter, independent content creator into a stay-at-home, soft life partner who has a provider man. Like Kelly, a lot of these girlfriends and fiancés make it known that even though they could work, they have chosen to stay at home, to live the soft life. Their daily regimens are perfect social media content. Watching a beautiful woman lounging on a sunbed because she doesn't need to work, spending her man's money on luxury brands and traveling to dream locations is peak awe-inspiring content, apparently. These girlfriends are in, or at least present themselves as being in, an entirely different social bracket. In their social bracket, having a boyfriend slash fiance who can provide for the both of you, who can spoil you, and then choosing to let said boyfriend provide and spoil you, because isn't that what every woman wants, is where the status lies.
Personally, I believe I'm not meant to work. I'm meant to do this all day.
Stay-at-home girlfriends have chosen to live a life of femininity because, especially in this economy, the rewards appear great, and these rewards must be flexed online. They all seem to make these picture montages exhibiting their man working, while they, on the other hand, are given a beautiful house, while their man buys them not one but two horses, takes them on yachts, and buys them only the most expensive brand labels for their birthdays. And don't forget that private chef. Like I said, these women believe, or at least present the idea, that they are not destined to work because a life of not working is seemingly giving them greater financial gains, greater freedoms and happiness than working. A lot of them are very into spirituality and manifestation and the belief that they've manifested this enviable dream life. Now, the second thing that's noteworthy about all these girlfriends is that I'd divide them into two types: the social media ones and the normie trad ones. The social media ones are the most successful girlfriends, and pretty much every single one of them is expected to travel the world with their boyfriend for his job. Pretty much all of them end up in Dubai and flex about their boyfriend's money, the trips their boyfriend takes them on, and the many gifts their boyfriend gets them. them. The beauty of social media is that you can present living in a different country every single month as a luxury, rather than the reality of jet lag, flight delays, spending hours in overcrowded airports and airplanes. And personally, I do feel that most of this content is mere flexing as opposed to reality. A lot of these girlfriends, in my opinion, are faking it until they make it. This isn't necessarily to say they're faking the money that their provider man has, but it is to say that they're faking the idea that this life is enviable, that this life is easy, and that this life is accessible to their audience. These girlfriends are making this content to convince you that you can have this life. They are influencers selling you an ideal and image of a life to keep you coming back for more. And whether you're watching out of envy or awe, the point is pretty clear. Now, contrary to these social media girlfriends, normie girlfriends make far more realistic content and tend to stick to day in the life videos, which typically revolve around cooking, cleaning, and doing laundry from the comfort of their established home. And they exhibit far more traditional values. They are homemakers because they believe traditionally women are nurturers and find fulfillment in centering their lives around the home and family. Flexing wealth and luxury isn't so much their thing, in as much as flexing a day in the life video that is very, very stress-free and pretty, I would say, mundane.
Here's the unglamorous reality of a stay-at-home girlfriend. Truth is, I'm bored a lot. I don't shop every day. I don't get massages or facials every day. Some may ask, well, why don't you work? I do. I'm a content creator, but filming a video takes an hour max, which leaves me with 23 hours left. Most days, I'm organizing the house or looking for things to furnish the house with. I don't enjoy cooking for myself, so I order in a lot. Also, the amount of times I cut my cuticles is a joke. And the highlight of my day, using the jacuzzi for like 10 minutes. Anyway, I finally changed out of my robe into my PJs, so let me know what show to watch on Netflix because my boyfriend isn't home until 10 today.
They get a lot more negative attention because I think in our day and age, flexing that you're essentially bored isn't going to go down very well. And I would say that this is courtesy of Kendel Kay's effect on the stay-at-home girlfriend community. I do feel that because the social media girlfriends are more successful than the normie girlfriends, a distorted image of being a girlfriend has been created. For instance, the reality of traveling the world with your boyfriend means that, unlike the normie girlfriends, these social media girlfriends have no permanent home. If we read in between the lines of this seemingly adorable TikTok of one social media girlfriend, now fiance, whose boyfriend, quote, doesn't allow me to ever let go of his hand, these girlfriends are almost exclusively dependent on their boyfriends for social connection. Their boyfriends are this odd sort of shadow hanging over their content, and not always for the right reasons. The fact that every single one of their social media posts references their boyfriend shows how central their boyfriend is in every facet of their lives. They're also unable to make friends, or at least to see their friends meaningfully with all the traveling they're doing, let alone family. Now, based on the rise of stay-at-home fiance content, it is very clear that most of these girlfriends want to become wives, and a lot of them, thankfully, do. But what noticeably isn't spoken about pretty much at all is what happens when the relationship doesn't work out. And this leads us to Kendel Kay, a now 27-year-old influencer who is pretty much solely responsible for the virality and popularity of stay-at-home girlfriend content online to this very day. Now, Kendel is quite literally the face of stay-at-home girlfriend content. If you type any keyword relating to this kind of girlfriend content, her videos are the first to come up. They're the most watched, the most commented on, even though they were posted in 2022 and 2023. So quite a while ago.
Hello, YouTube world. My name is Kendel.
Now, Kendel was at college when she got her first start in social media and Instagram modeling, and this seems to have quickly led her into OnlyFans creation. She would move to Los Angeles to pursue her online modeling and OF career, and it was at this time that a 24-year-old Kendel would go on one of those infamous influencer trips to Mexico, where she met 21-year-old aspiring entrepreneur Luke Lintz. And they started dating pretty much immediately before officially moving in together a few months later.
So about 2 years ago is when I met him. We started dating immediately when we met. It was just kind of like this instant spark that just blossomed into this relationship. Then at the end of the trip, he invited me to keep traveling with him and come visit him in Puerto Rico. So I just like have been glued to his side ever since I met him. And at 2 weeks into us meeting, he asked me to be his girlfriend.
Now, what I find just as fascinating about a stay-at-home girlfriend who is on social media giving you sneak peeks into her lavish lifestyle is her boyfriend, who is just as publicly online.
We were given the opportunity to partner up or start an OnlyFans agency. That goes against the personal values, and we knew.
A few moments later.
We went to Disney World with 6ix9ine, and this is what happened. We gave 6ix9ine 6 figures in cash, and this is what happened.
All I need is my truck and my Barbie. Ah, yes. Luke is essentially an entrepreneur, crypto, real estate, you name it. But his online persona very much revolves around him having started an Instagram growth agency with his brothers. In layman's terms, their agency revolves around giveaways and giving people's social medias a makeover by essentially giving them a phantom subscriber base. Phantom subscribers are basically inactive followers who are only following someone who they've been instructed to follow because of the T's and C's of entering a giveaway contest. Luke's clients tend to be plastic, cosmetic surgeons and cosmetic dentists who want to give their Instagrams a facelift, pun intended. When you go to their social medias, they have hundreds of thousands of followers, but virtually no engagement whatsoever. But anyway, Luke's social media is very stereotypical of a 22/23-year-old self-made multi-millionaire.
You go to work and you pay taxes at work. Where those taxes go, they don't tell you exactly, but it goes into somewhere that gets spent somewhere. And then when you go to the grocery store, any single place, spend money online, you're paying taxes. When you go take your hard-earned money after you paid a shit ton of taxes and you go buy a house, you're paying more taxes, and then you're paying property taxes every single year. Where the fuck are all these taxes going? At the end of the day, you're just literally working for the government with a shit ton of taxes.
Everything is very hashtag entrepreneurship, hashtag growth mindset, get rid of that victim mentality, don't go to university, Gen Z are poor because they're lazy.
I think for the most part, Gen Z is extremely lazy in comparison to previous generations. And I see so much complaining around people my age and in Gen Z in general when we have life so easy. And I think it's only getting worse.
Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
That's so true.
But his TikTok in particular is most insightful.
You grab your coconut and you take a knife right underneath. Do you think I'm flexing that Lambo, huh?
Just like his clients, he has well over 100k TikTok followers, but virtually no engagement on his TikToks, especially if you consider the size of his audience, as well as the frequency of his upload schedule. So that's a bit,
That's suspicious. That's weird.
And just like Kendel still has all her stay-at-home girlfriend content up and running on her TikTok, he still has all his content featuring and about Kendel up and running on his TikTok. Point of view, you laugh together and find joy from the smallest things in life. Says the multi-millionaire. You found her. You've spent the past 398 out of the last 410 days together. Now you are going on random yacht cruises. And here was me thinking that it was all about the smaller things in life. Point of view, you found the girl you are going to spend the rest of your life with in your early 20s, who is a perfect match, supports your dreams, travels the world with you, shares the same dreams, and is so hot. I love influencers so much. Love is patient, love is kind, love is cringe. A lot of his couples content is essentially about him giving you relationship advice, modeled on how ideal his relationship with Kendel is. For instance, how to find your princess.
If any guy is single out there and is in business, they should start off with writing down a full list of every single quality they want in their perfect ideal woman. And then they want to write a list of everything that they don't want. And then when they go out into the dating world, when they start talking with new girls, subconsciously that list is in your mind. And as you going through conversation, you're basically checking off this list in your mind. If you've done it thoroughly enough, you've spent multiple days reiterating this list, then you just accept nothing less than exactly what is on that list.
Please just remember this advice for later. Now, I would say that Kendel and Luke are a brilliant example of faking it until you make it. And this isn't to say that Luke wasn't a multi-millionaire crypto, real estate, Instagram growth agency entrepreneur, nor isn't it to say that Kendel doesn't dream of being a hot feminine housewife. But their relationship, although real, was superficial when you consider the values and relationship advice they were giving. At first, it didn't really matter because, if anything, they were marketing geniuses. I'm a multi-millionaire with my hot blonde OF model girlfriend, traveling the world and being rich. Luke and Kendel's content was initially very flashy and all about flexing his money.
I really don't understand the issue of people commenting on my TikTok. Like, is there something wrong, like, with me paying my girl an allowance? Like, I don't see the issue with this. Like,
they were very much a social media girlfriend and her new money boyfriend, posing in front of expensive cars, partying and flying on private jets, sailing on yachts, and showing off her body. What was interesting was that, funnily enough, they were frequently featured in news articles and were always shown either in or in proximity to a private jet. And this jet is a very good example of how fake, in essence, a lot of this relationship advice content was, just because apparently, allegedly, contrary to the personas being presented of a dependent trophy girlfriend and her millionaire breadwinner, Kendel allegedly paid for the private jet from her own pocket. Allegedly. But anyway, it was very clear that these two were very confident in their love. They were going to be together forever.
Just a reminder that it's okay for relationships to end. Not ours, though. You think you have a way out of this?
Yeah, and just note, in all of this relationship advice and wisdom, there was no marriage, no legal arrangement between them, nothing. And they'd moved in together, moving Kendel from Los Angeles to Puerto Rico in a matter of a mere few months of knowing each other. Now, very quickly into their relationship, Luke rebranded. It was quite apparent that when Luke started to actually make big money, he stopped partying and got more in touch with his Christian faith. He therefore rebranded from a partying flexer with a hot OF girlfriend into a serious hustler bro and what online is labeled as high value man content.
Trigger warning, time to talk about your low-level friends. I'm sure you've heard of the term, your network is your net worth, and this couldn't be more than true. You really need to look at the top 5 people that you spend the most time with. For example, if your friends don't work out, you either need to push them to work out or they need to go. If your friends aren't trying to progress in life, guess what? They need to go. If your friends love having only surface level conversation talking about other people, guess what? They definitely have to go. So don't be afraid to start axing some friends out of your relationship circle because the average millionaire only has 3 close friends.
What? That is crazy.
Speaking to the Daily Mail, Luke said, "I've always believed in a very traditional relationship. I believe the man in a relationship should be doing the masculine work and should make enough to provide for the household, while his woman can rest in her feminine energy." Therefore, as a result of his rebrand, Kendel's content did a complete 180. And this is what is so intriguing about Kendel's content. Having watched hours of Kendel's safe for work content, I can honestly say that I have absolutely no idea who Kendel Kay is, truly. And I don't think she knows who she truly is either. Her personality is so heavily dictated by seeking male validation that I couldn't tell you anything about who she genuinely is beyond the various personas she adopts in pursuit of that online, specifically male validation. Now, there was a reason for me babbling on earlier about the 2 kinds of stay-at-home girlfriends, the social media ones and the normie normie trad ones. Kendall's initial girlfriend content was very social media girlfriend. Her persona and content were very much about traveling the world, about being rich and hot, because as I said, that was very much Luke's brand of faking it until he made it. And once he made it, things got serious. And because Luke's online persona and business got more serious and high value man-esque, Kendall's online brand and persona got more serious and high value woman-esque.
And I think that I'm in my most feminine era of my life right now. Hopefully I only get more feminine as I grow up, because I think the divine feminine is just such a beautiful energy to embody as a female, and I equate it with my highest self. Like when I picture my highest self, I picture this like ultra feminine fairy princess, and that's what I'm going for. One thing that helps with this too is my boyfriend is extremely masculine, I would say. He's very much in his masculine energy, and the two of us are like yin and yang, and I think that we make each other more polar. Like I make him more masculine, he makes me want to be more feminine. So I think that's also a reason why I feel the most feminine right now, because I've been with him for a little over a year and a half. I was definitely a bit more masculine before I met him.
She quit modeling and OnlyFans pretty much overnight. And as Luke's social media got more into faith, traditional values, and the mindset of a hustling breadwinner, Kendel became more domestic and demure. Kendel flipped from a social media girlfriend into a normie girlfriend. Gone were the bleach blonde extensions, the fillers and Botox and hot girl bikinis, and in came a more subtle, old money, high value Kendel and aesthetic. And going through her Instagram, you can see the stark rebrand from literally wearing no clothes, having a heavy spray tan, as well as very suggestive posing that's quite typical of an OF model, into suddenly covering her body, wearing very girly clothes with captions like, "Life hack, if you dress like a princess, you'll get treated like one." This was also when her content started to be more about feminine energy, being a high value woman, clean eating, and self-care. And although she described it as somewhat of a trade-off, she very much described this rebrand and reprioritization as her choice, as becoming more in tune with her authentic femininity. She, for instance, claimed that she quit OF because of body image issues.
I feel like constantly doing photo shoots makes you like really critical of your body and the way you look, just like constantly seeing yourself from all these angles and like wanting to look your very best. So I don't know if it was the best thing for my body image. And I also am getting older. They say your peak with modeling is like in your teens and early 20s, and I'm 25 going on 26 like I said. So I feel like I've like hit my peak with my modeling look. And I don't think there would be much opportunity for me anymore.
She also claimed that she wanted to attract a new audience of people, specifically of women, who cared about her lifestyle and not about her looks.
Really recently, my TikToks really started to blow up in like August. I was getting like tens of millions of views, and it gave me like this whole new audience of people that I didn't have before, people who like really wanted to see like my lifestyle and stuff. So I've been loving it because I feel like this new audience is people who care about my lifestyle, not my looks as much. Like my original TikTok audience was following me because of my looks, because I used to post like those sexy like dance videos, you know, like how everyone used to do that. And that's how I gained my first like 100, 200, 300,000 followers, was based off of that. So it's very much like those videos are very much based off of your looks, I would say, and just like being hot. And then when I started to post more about like lifestyle stuff, I gained this whole new audience on top of that who cares more about like what I eat, like fashion, like just like more like girly stuff. So I've just enjoyed creating content catered to those people much more, because it's like more fun for me. It's more fun for me to post what I eat in a day and to post my day in the life than like to just make these like
thirst trap videos.
Luke and Kendel became traditional and interested in a masculine and feminine dynamic where Kendel stayed at home in Puerto Rico.
I think our relationship is definitely on the more traditional side of things. I personally really like that. Like that's what I was looking for in a relationship. I like being the breadwinner, so to speak. I like being in a very masculine position to be like working extremely hard in terms of money.
Now, Kendel enjoyed doing housework.
I hate anything around the house, taking care of the home. And like I have perspective because I did that type of stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so
like chores and stuff. Yeah,
I had to do chores, and then like I lived by myself for a period of time.
You had to fend for yourself in certain areas.
And I think we're good with that because like you like doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
This was very much presented as Kendel evolving, maturing, and coming into her instinctive role as a soft, feminine, and high-value homemaker.
The reason why I call it masculine and feminine is because for most of history there's been like these gender roles, like a more masculine gender role and a more feminine gender role. And up until recently is when people are starting to like really like challenge those roles. But I think it is a masculine instinct to want to like provide for a family, and I think it's a feminine instinct to want to be at the house, like taking care of the environment in which like you live and being like more nurturing. We both have the very strong pull to do each of the things that we're doing.
Now, Kendel's normie stay-at-home girlfriend content went big time viral. And what was noticeable was that a sizable proportion of her audience initially thought that it was satire. Seeing a former OF content creator transform into a stay-at-home girlfriend overnight was, let's just say you don't see that. But the main reason this content caused so much controversy at the time was because of the content of the videos themselves.
This is what my mornings look like as a 25-year-old stay-at-home girlfriend. I fill up Luke and I's water bottles to make sure we're hydrated, and then I made myself a Bloom green juice. And then I made Luke his latte. I make him an iced latte with cinnamon and maple syrup and homemade almond milk. Then I tidied up our bedroom, made the bed. Then I did my very long skincare routine. It's like 20 minutes long, and ice rolled. Then I did my 5-minute journal and went on a walk on the beach to get a coffee with Luke. And then I put my workout clothes on, did a workout at the gym with Luke, and afterwards made us some smoothie bowls with some superfoods. And I made myself my second caffeine drink for the day, matcha latte with Bloom's collagen, and then I planned out the rest of my day in my new planner.
Now this video has 13 million views. Now I'm sure, like me, you are wondering why this video and so many others like it popped off for Kendel. Why did these videos cause so much controversy? Well, basically people were very harsh and critical into how boring her life appeared to be, especially in comparison to her initial social media girlfriend flexing content.
Then I got ready and put my shoes on, saw a butterfly.
And this isn't to dismiss at all the amount of hate that Kendel got. It was honestly quite brutal and in a lot of cases I would say unnecessary. However, I think there was something a bit eerie about all of it. Her life was presented as the dream life, and yet, as someone commented, she rarely makes opening the blinds sound like a whole task. Now, aside from opening blinds and making green drinks, Kendel's dream life was Luke.
Trigger warning, time to talk about your low-level friend.
If her life wasn't revolving around Luke, it revolved around, as I said, making matcha and green drinks, journaling, Pilates, laundry, and Luke. Did I say Luke?
This is everything I did for my boyfriend today as a stay-at-home girlfriend. The first thing I always do is make him a coffee. He loves these lattes with some cinnamon on top. And then I take it down to his office for him. And then he handed me his water bottle to fill up. And I realized I had to change the water filter, which I needed some help with. And then I continued to fill up his water with ice cubes. I tidied up our room and made the bed, unloaded the dishwasher, and then reloaded it. Made Luke some chicken salad on toast, then made him another latte because he always likes to have a second one in the afternoon. I sorted all of our laundry into piles and started putting it into the washer. When it came around dinner time, I started to get cooking. I make dinner every night. Tonight I made lamb meatballs, which is one of Luke's favorite meals. They turn out so yummy. And then after dinner, I clean up all the dishes in the dishwasher. And I think I forgot to cut this part out. Oops. I made him tea, and then I hung up a lot of the laundry.
Her being a girlfriend and not a wife with legal protections was another point of major contention. But Kendel would dismiss this as people merely projecting their insecurities into the comment section. She was very adamant that she was financially secure in this relationship. Another thing that I noticed about Kendel's normie stay-at-home girlfriend era was that she began to refer to content creation as a hobby. It wasn't her job, it was what she did for fun, like cooking and crafts.
Cooking is my biggest hobby, also content creation, like making these videos, taking photos, making TikToks, all that. That's like my other big hobby.
Suddenly, she characterized all the modeling she used to do as something she didn't get paid for. It was just a creative outlet that she was now too old to do anyway. There was a lot of her reducing her obvious successes as a social media marketeer and model because of this new hyper-feminine, soft girl, high-value normie girlfriend persona. She was also doing interviews pretty much from the get-go of rebranding into a stay-at-home girlfriend, even writing an article for Newsweek. My boyfriend and I have very different roles in the relationship, and our financial dynamic really emphasizes that. I feel like I've become an even more feminine version of myself since I met him, and he is even more driven in his work than before. Because we focus on such different things, I no longer have to focus on making money, and he doesn't have to focus on cooking or cleaning or things that he doesn't want to do. We're both very happy. I feel like we have this yin and yang relationship where we really help each other out in ways that we need it. Remember this. I do think the main reason Kendel got such negative publicity was because even though I'd argue she's well-intentioned, she isn't malicious, she isn't a very reliable narrator. There were a lot of things that just didn't add up, and I think the reason they didn't add up is because she herself doesn't even know who she is. For instance, she'd write in her article that she wouldn't encourage anyone to live a similar life to her because I don't think it's a good goal for people to have. If you're constantly looking for someone who will take care of you, I feel you're entering that relationship for the wrong reasons. However, the very premise of her being an influencer is to influence. With her stay-at-home girlfriend content, Kendel was A, not just making content about being a stay-at-home girlfriend, but marketing that lifestyle. And B, because of this content success and virality, she was inspiring a dream life. The life of a woman whose boss is her man, who pays her to do whatever she wants. Step 1, get yourself an alpha male who wants to provide. That sounds like encouragement. That sounds like a goal that many an impressionable young viewer is going to see and aspire toward. Other contradictions would be in Kendel's entire brand being oriented around not dreaming of labor, but then saying that she wants to create her own personal brand and found her own company when being interviewed. That is, when being interviewed about being a stay-at-home girlfriend.
I hope that I can create my own personal brand enough to start my own company of some sort.
Founding a company is labor, and it's definitely not something that a stay-at-home girlfriend whose life is centered around being in the home does. And on reflection, there were many things that didn't quite add up during this normie girlfriend era, which leads us to the infamous viral diary controversy. Now, this controversy was a big one for the very fact that it was the most bizarre example of how fake a lot of this was. an example of how unreliably narrated the glamour and ease of being a stay-at-home girlfriend is. I'd like to preface this by saying that throughout her era of being a stay-at-home girlfriend, Kendel was adamant that her life was fulfilling. Slow living and taking care of myself and my home is so fulfilling. Now, one of the things that she got heavily mocked for during this period was the amount of journaling she did. I admit this is quite harsh, okay? According to her, spending her days baking, journaling, and online shopping was a great life, each to their own, of course. But then somebody took a screenshot from her most viral TikTok. And this screenshot happened to be from a particular moment when Kendel had her planner open. Her camera was focused just enough to see what she'd been writing if you zoomed in. Now, this TikTok is still up and running and live on her TikTok to this day, most likely because it is her highest viewed video. But the situation went viral enough on TikTok and on Twitter that I'm surprised, considering all the news articles about her dream lifestyle, that this wasn't a bigger deal in the mainstream media. I also don't believe this was rage bait because Kendel didn't respond to the controversy. She also stopped engaging with her comment section, and she also made sure to never show her journals again. Understandably. Seriously, good for you, girl. Keep your peace and your privacy. But when internet sleuths zoomed into her planner, they saw that she had written that she was unsatisfied with her looks, that she felt stagnation in her career / satisfaction / fulfillment, as well as a lack of fun / social life / excitement. Now, it is obviously sad whenever somebody feels this way about their looks. Kendel is undoubtedly a beautiful woman. At the same time, from the perspective of a viewer, this cemented Kendel as a bit of an unreliable narrator. She was presenting her life as fulfilling and aspirational, as well as claiming that this was a feminine instinct to want to stay at home. And yet clearly, being at home and in this hyper feminine role wasn't alleviating her sense of stagnation and lack of fulfillment. Now, what I found rather concerning about this was Kendel's short list of solutions to these feelings of dissatisfaction with her life. The solution? More self-care. Now, I have a lot of thoughts about self-care. Brace yourselves. Considering that almost all Kendel did with her day-to-day was self-care, and yet still her desire is to do more self-care, is, in my very humble opinion, an example of what can be called toxic self-care. This is something that I especially see online with the growth of female wellness and mindfulness industries. In short, I would argue that most self-care right now has forsaken its roots and has become a mass industry. It basically requires you to consume things like matcha drinks, green juices, probiotics, Pilates, LED light masks, and skincare routines that last upwards of 20 minutes. It requires you to watch influencers and guru girlies who will tell you how to manifest productivity, abundance, beauty, and confidence into your daily life. Self-care has become a term to umbrella all kinds of over-consuming activities and aspirations. And because of this, what self-care actually means has lost its meaning. All of these things are essentially a means to an end. Drink this matcha or green juice and you'll be healthy and therefore happy. Go to these Pilates classes because you'll therefore have that trending Pilates body that everybody wants and you'll therefore be happy. Don't dream of labor and take care of the home because you'll then have no stress and will therefore be happy. Buy the latest skincare products and masks because it'll make you feel like you're improving your skin and you will therefore be happy. The industrial complex of self-care is a means to an end, which in my opinion isn't the same as self-care. Self-care ought to be, and initially was, I believe, an end in itself. Now, with that being said, what I'm about to say is purely my analysis of Kendel, having watched her TikToks and her vlogs. When Kendel does self-care, it doesn't feel like she's doing it to take care of herself. It feels like she's actually doing self-care to try, in vain, to feel good about herself. Journaling skincare and drinking green concoctions isn't inherently harmful or bad at all. But what I do see as harmful and negative is how she's clearly putting herself under pressure to do these things because the self-care industrial complex of products, of consumerism, and of influencers tells Kendel that these things will make her happy and fulfilled. It's basically a placebo effect. She routinely, repeatedly, and productively does these expensive and time-consuming self-care rituals, not because they make her happy, but because she's been told that they will make her happy. And if she isn't happy, well, that means you're not doing enough self-care, and therefore you need to do more self-care. And clearly, she isn't happy, as she accidentally, quite literally shows us in a TikTok where she is literally practicing the ultimate lifestyle of self-care as a stay-at-home girlfriend. And rather than see the self-care as a large part of the issue, she believes that more self-care is the answer. In her mind, she's not doing enough self-care, hence why she's unhappy and unfulfilled. In actual fact, and I'd argue that this is still the case in her current content, she's unhappy and unfulfilled because these self-care rituals aren't being done for her well-being. These self-care rituals and routines are being done for the purpose of external validation. Being a religious clean eater and being slim and healthy is in pursuit of maintaining a very particular kind of physique for modeling and OnlyFans. That is for the validation of the internet and men. Being a clean eater isn't to make Kendel happy, it's to make her hot. Kendel would label herself not just as a stay-at-home girlfriend, but as a hot stay-at-home girlfriend. And being a hot girlfriend means being on a very particular diet. As a hot girlfriend, her daily food consumption was as follows: a smoothie, mushroom coffee, a small bowl of boiled chicken and cucumber, rice with ground beef, and magnesium. I'm not going to say anything except that it deeply worries me that people are saying these are so inspiring goals and low inflammation queen on a TikTok where somebody is featuring magnesium as a meal. It often comes across as if Kendel's punishing herself as opposed to fulfilling herself, going through the scripted mantras of what social media tells her will make her happy, as opposed to actually sitting down and thinking what will actually make her happy.
I am feeling drained, hopeless, lonely, sad, for social reasons.
Brethren, I have never felt so sad watching a vlog. I know that we're currently living in a zeitgeist where feeling sorry for influencers is forbidden, sacrilege, blasphemy, but goddamn, there's something quite eerie in a beautiful influencer presenting a dream life of no labor, of continual self-care, of having no stress, whilst then writing about their lack of fulfillment and satisfaction, their dissatisfaction with their looks, their sense of stagnation, a lack of fun. Kendel was feeling this way while traveling the world and living on a beautiful island free of charge with her multi-millionaire boyfriend. Let that sink in. And remember that whenever you feel behind in life, or whenever you feel envy, or you just feel sad about your life when you see these influencers showing how perfect and wonderful their world is. And on that note, now as a part of her rebrand into normie girlfriend and self-care content, Kendel started a virtual podcast with her then best friend Cassie. As was the theme with Kendel and Luke giving advice and wisdom into having a successful trad relationship at the mere ages of 25 and 22, this podcast was what you'd expect. How to be ladylike, speaking with grace and elegance, guide to living a luxurious life, raise your standards. You are a prized possession because, you know, women are possessions. And then there was the episode that nobody was expecting. Girly girl chat, breakups, boys, and boundaries. Now this whole episode epitomized what I've said about Kendel being an unreliable narrator. She let it all out, and I think she let out a lot more than she realized. The first thing I found noteworthy about the breakup podcast episode is what Cassie says. Quote, "You talk about you and Luke all the time as being this happy couple." To which Kendel agrees.
Because you're talking about you and Luke all the time as being this like happy couple. I know.
Luke breaking up with Kendel came as a complete surprise and shock because on social media, they were the aspirational ideal couple. In the episode, she admits that they were in fact having relationship problems, which saw them spending about 2 weeks apart. But during this time apart, they were still in constant communication. They were lovingly texting, saying good morning and good night to each other. And Kendel was under the impression that the goal of being apart was to get some space from each other. So a few days into their mandated time apart, they had a FaceTime call because Luke needed to talk. And this needing to talk came after she posted a picture of herself in a red bikini on Instagram.
We gave 6ix9ine 6 figures in cash.
Now, keep in mind that before this call, although the two were spending 2 weeks apart from each other, they were still very much together. They were in constant communication. They even had a ski trip planned together. So this FaceTime call should have been like any other. And I only set the scene for this phone call in such methodical detail because of how important an example it is of a truly catastrophic downside and reality of being a stay-at-home girlfriend, as well as how fake this whole persona put on by both Luke and Kendel was. Now, Luke and Kendel FaceTimed for an hour, and by the end of that single hour, Luke had broken up with Kendel.
Him calling me just took me by such surprise. I built my whole life around him. I moved to Puerto Rico with him.
Dude, you're speaking, I know.
And it would also be revealed that the reason Luke broke up with Kendel was because, and I quote Kendel on this, he considered her tainted because of her OF past.
He thinks that like
that was so
OnlyFans
dumb.
is like demonic. He literally has been using those words.
That's a heavy word.
Demonic. And that when we met, because we met through the same person, which was my OnlyFans manager, a demonic dark energy. And that's why we got together, because we were like, through trauma, we were tied together. Like, these are his words. Basically, he just should have never pursued an OnlyFans girl. His morals were so misaligned with mine, and you know, I'm still okay with it. Everything in the sex work industry, I'm such an open-minded person. I don't have any judgment or negative feelings about that, and I don't regret anything. And he's like mad at me that I don't regret it. He's mad that I don't have the same mindset that he does about it.
Kendel would also reveal that the reason she quit OnlyFans and modeling was actually because Luke wanted her to quit, and that she did it for him.
I quit OnlyFans for him. I made that decision.
Now, if we rewind, Kendel initially told us that she quit OnlyFans and modeling because of body image issues and not wanting to be judged solely on her looks. But now, in her podcast and in her post-breakup era, she was quite willing to admit that Luke wanted her to quit OnlyFans.
I used to do OnlyFans, and I basically grew my audience just of a bunch of men on Instagram from college, like being a sorority girl and posting like a bunch of like hot photos. So that's like how I originally grew my audience. And then once I met Luke, he wanted me to stop doing that type of content, so I did.
Kendel, in fact, loved doing OF content and Instagram modeling.
I was an OnlyFans girl, even though I quit. That was such a big part of my life that made me happy. Like, I love doing photo shoots. I love like wearing tiny outfits. I love feeling sexy. I love using my body as art. Even if I'm not doing OnlyFans, like, I'm still doing those things. I've been like meeting with my therapist, trying to like find happiness again, and like one of the things I've been doing is getting back into doing photo shoots, and Luke does not like that.
You know, there's something very off-putting about a man falling for an OnlyFans model and allegedly getting her to quit and then breaking up with her because he can't get over the fact that she used to do OnlyFans. Luke had portrayed both his relationship and Kendel as ideal in all of his relationship advice content. And yet now it was being revealed that he allegedly didn't consider Kendel at all ideal. I don't know, there seems something just a little hypocritical about a self-righteous Christian man living unmarried with his girlfriend, whose past he knows all too well and at least pretended to accept, calling her demonic. Now, Kendel realized that after that hour-long call, she'd have to change her whole online identity, her whole persona as a stay-at-home girlfriend.
My whole persona is like a stay-at-home girlfriend. Like, I have to switch out my whole like online identity to a certain extent.
I cannot imagine how I'd feel not to lose my partner, but to lose the very fact that my emotional and my existential self, my entire world basically, is contingent on this person who has now broken up with me. And remember, although Kendel has been presenting this lifestyle as idyllic, she is obviously lonely. She doesn't have much fulfillment in her day-to-day life. She's traveling or living on a secluded island, so there isn't anywhere for her to really establish her roots or sense of community. She also, I think, unintentionally confessed that she actually didn't like spending all her time in the kitchen and taking charge of the house. She was just doing it for him.
I feel so empty and lost. Like, he was the center of my life.
Yeah, you've literally done everything for him.
Like, I moved my whole life to be with him. I changed up my entire content, my entire career, my location. I don't have any friends anymore. Like, I literally, like, gave up everything to be with him. Devoted so much of my life to him. Every day I would, like, be taking care of him. Like, making him breakfast, lunch, dinner, doing laundry, like, packing our stuff, unpacking things. Like, I was in charge of the household because of him. Like, when I'm living by myself, like, that's not how things look. I'm not in the kitchen all day, like, that's for sure.
Now, whilst I cannot imagine my entire identity, both online and offline, being ripped out from under me in a single hour-long phone call, I also have to be critical. What I think to be especially noteworthy about this breakup is that Kendel, albeit branding herself as a stay-at-home girlfriend entirely dependent on her millionaire boyfriend, was still making money as a content creator. She was still making money selling this lifestyle and telling concerned onlookers that even though she wasn't Luke's wife, she was financially secure. So you'd think, like I did initially, that Luke breaking up with her wouldn't have placed her in any real financial difficulty. Sure, she may no longer be a millionaire, but she's definitely making more money than any other stay-at-home girlfriend. In her Newsweek article, she actually wrote that I make around $2,000 per month, but I have savings from when I was working a lot, which is good to rely on. It would not be enough to completely support myself if we were ever to break up, but it's enough to make me feel like I have enough power in our relationship. She would even respond in her comment section telling people that arguably I'm benefiting more in the relationship. Well, our unreliable narrator strikes again, because in fact she had nothing. No car, no insurance, no health care, because as was being revealed, Kendel gave up everything for Luke.
I don't have a car. I don't have a car anymore. I don't have health insurance here. I don't have anything here.
No, you gave up everything for him.
I'm just like so lost, and
yeah, I mean,
it's hard because he's taken care of me for so long. So it's like I'm starting to look at houses, and I'm like, holy fuck! Like, I have to pay for this shit myself now. Like,
yeah, it's terrifying.
And hearing this really sent some chills down my spine. If a multi-millionaire's stay-at-home girlfriend has to give up everything for her boyfriend, imagine what a regular stay-at-home girlfriend has to potentially give up for her boyfriend. And Kendel had a lot of regular stay-at-home girlfriends and aspiring girlfriends in her comment section who are very much yas queening her to the bank. The irresponsibility of this is mind-blowing to me. And I think in all of this, Luke and Kendall's relationship feels like a dark, realistic version of Pretty Woman.
$1 million?
Yes.
Wow.
Fun fact, actually, the film Pretty Woman was meant to be a dark and cautionary tale before it was rewritten into a rom-com. And I do think that we can blame what I would call the Pretty Woman effect for perpetuating two myths when it comes to Luke and Kendel. The first being that a millionaire will save you, and the second being what, according to Kendel, Luke believed. That is that he could turn the OF model he fell in love with into a traditional, dependent, high-value woman, and that she'd be as starstruck as Julia Roberts, I guess. You know how some women believe they can save a bad boy? Well, there's a male equivalent, courtesy of Edward Lewis, played by Richard Gere. They fall for beautiful women who post X-rated content, and these men believe they can save, or more so, fix her.
So what happened after? He climbed up the tower and rescued her.
More generically, it can be any man falling for and saving any woman and ultimately believing that he can change who she fundamentally is, not just for his own good, but he believes for her own good. Now, Luke's relationship advice content straight after the breakup is very insightful because it really fits the definition of what can be called high-value men content. And it's also why I think much of what Kendel has said said allegedly transpired in that phone call probably did. With his transition from a partying flexer into a more serious entrepreneur CEO figure, his content transitioned into the so-called high-value male content. A high-value man is all about the grind, working out, and having strong mental fortitude. Basically, a lot of high-value male content is about overcoming temptation.
I constantly get tempted. Like, temptation you can see in every single area of your life. With money, temptation with sex, temptation with will only be put in front of you if you have faith, knowing that you can overcome. And if it's something so strong that you are not able to control, there'll be a way of escape given to you.
Luke says that you should forget about women if you're in your late teens and 20s.
If you're in your late teens or 20s, I want you to forget about women. When you will put your head down for minimum the next 5 years.
High-value men also don't pursue women. They're not desperate. Instead, because they're high value, women flock to them.
Quit chasing women who want nothing to do with you, because desperation as a man won't get you anywhere in life. Learn that as a man, especially in your younger years, you should just be working on your mind, body, and soul. You won't even have time to be chasing and having desperation over women, and the women will naturally flock once you become the better version of yourself.
These videos are so melodramatic, I can't. And I completely understand somebody going on a journey of self-discovery, discovering or rediscovering themselves, being a born-again Christian as Luke is. But what I don't condone about that journey is obfuscating responsibility and reducing your relationship to you being tempted. A relationship which apparently was ideal and forever, which you chose to be in, which you benefited greatly from because, you know, you don't like chores.
I hate anything around the house.
As if this woman didn't give up her friends, her family, her career, her health insurance for you. Can 2025 please be the year that we stop taking life and relationship advice from morally corrupt men just because they landed on the motherlode? And Luke represents a major issue that I personally have with high value content. This entire mindset of being driven and becoming someone that women flock to, of being a high value man, has another rather derogatory side to it. In the same way that these high value men distinguish between lazy people and driven people, between those who overcome temptation and those who don't, between high value men and low value men. They also distinguish between so-called high value women and low value women. This arbitrary and completely superficial value system noticeably affects how you see people. And it's telling that as soon as Luke began perceiving himself as high value, his girlfriend, the love of his life, was suddenly engaging in demonic things, was clearly being labeled as some kind of low value woman because she wasn't, I don't know, ashamed of her past. And the thing is, the women that are going to flock to the Lukes of the world aren't going to be wholesome, submissive, traditional Christian women. His relationship advice content went from idealizing women, specifically Kendel, to erasing women from the picture entirely. And I don't think either approach is healthy. But that's not the woman's, that is Kendel's, the OF models, the corn stars' fault. Overall, I just don't understand why 20-year-olds in dysfunctional, toxic relationships based on hotness as well as misaligned values are giving serious relationship advice that they don't practice or fully understand themselves. How people are taking concrete advice from this man makes absolutely no sense to me. Now, after the breakup, Kendel was lost.
Now that I'm broken up, I'm like feeling so lost because I'm no longer a stay-at-home girlfriend and I don't know what. I just don't know what to do. And everyone seems to have an idea of what I should do, and it's like really overwhelming for me to hear like everyone's voices because everyone's saying something different, and it's just really overwhelming and I just feel lost.
Remember when I said I don't know who Kendel is and I don't think she knows who she truly is either? And this isn't a criticism at all. None of us really know who we are and we're all trying to figure it out, obviously. But as a result, her post-breakup rebrand has been very, very interesting to watch. On the one hand, before her relationship, she was very successful doing OnlyFans content and Instagram modeling. However, this meant that her audience was largely male well and was just there for her looks. And on the other hand, she has attracted a largely female audience because of her trad, very wholesome and high value feminine girlfriend content. Kendel has also said that she prefers her female audience over her male audience. However, now that she's no longer a trad girlfriend and going viral every other day, her girly wellness content isn't generating comparable views. And the predicament is that Kendel now has to pay bills, which means that she's found herself doing OnlyFans and Instagram modeling again. And as we know, she's an unreliable narrator, but I'd hazard that she was being genuine in saying that even though she loves modeling, she doesn't like being judged solely for her looks or only having men follow her because of her body. And so watching Kendel now is quite bizarre. Her content is fixated on getting beauty treatments, anti-aging, she's back on Botox and filler, but she's also very into self-care and wellness. And what makes it even more bizarre is how, because all her stay-at-home girlfriend content is still up on her social media, I don't think a lot of people actually realize that she's no longer a stay-at-home girlfriend, which is why to this day her videos are still being watched, are still being engaged with, and presented as the face of the girlfriend community. None of the newspapers writing articles about her and Luke's luxurious life said anything about the breakup. A recent Cosmopolitan article titled "What Happens to a Stay-at-Home Girlfriend After a Breakup" didn't even realize that Kendel had been broken up with when referencing her and her content. But in the midst of this, Kendel is currently well underway into rebranding herself as a model and wellness girl. And I have lots of thoughts. Wellness girl content is very stay-at-home girlfriend adjacent. The main principles of it are to live a stress-free life, to practice self-care and wellness in the form of clean, healthy eating, meditation, and spirituality. You'll easily spot wellness women and girlies as they call themselves at Erewhon after a Pilates class. Importantly, feminine wellness content, for me, can lead into murky territory because of one thing that it does, and that is its near obsessive emphasis on the online feminine aesthetic and lifestyle. Because elevating the feminine is seen as central to most wellness girl content, there's this sort of elephant in the room called the masculine that is either ignored or obeyed. And like any elephant in the room, it's the thing that's always on your mind, that you always see, that you're constantly aware of. Feminine girlies either ignore the masculine because it's deemed toxic. On the other hand, if you're not ignoring the masculine elephant in the room, you as a feminine woman are submitting to the masculine. And this is because the feminine and the masculine need to coexist in harmony. And according to these feminine women, a huge problem with modern society is that modern women are too masculine and modern men are too feminine. There's no balance, and because there's no balance, modern women are stressed and unhappy. Stay-at-home girlfriends have become one of several ways in which modern women are trying to find their happiness in this sort of reclaiming of femininity. Kendel doesn't dream of labor, and not dreaming of labor and having no stress is a big thing in the feminine wellness industry. Because according to the rather consumerist philosophy of it all, when women are in their feminine energy, when women are practicing mindfulness and are eating and absorbing healthy, clean products, they are living in their highest mental and physical selves and are therefore embodying their true selves. And being your true self equals happiness. On the other hand, and according to other feminine wellness girlies, when women are in their feminine energy, they are able to attract high value men. High value men who will cherish, who will respect, spoil, and treat women like the princesses they are. And the only men who do this are men who are in their highest and truest masculine energies.
Riley is strong, decisive, and naturally takes on the role of the leader in our relationship.
Luke, as I said, fits the definition of the high value man. Let's just sit with that for a second, because I think that fact alone tells you how flawed this value system is. This value system that is everywhere online and in self-help these days. And I do think that this is the problem. The likes of Kendel will claim that being being high maintenance is a form of wellness, because when you look good, you feel good, and according to Kendel, beauty equals wellness. It's simple girl math. Being just a girl who needs a man to fund her life is a big thing in this sphere of high value woman. And I find this all very ironic because, well, most of these popular feminine gurus and wellness girlies are making very masculine monthly checks from this kind of content. They're also inadvertently centering men by doing everything in their power to fit into the mold of what a very particular type of wealthy, high value man wants. So for me at least, it doesn't feel very empowering or self-valuing. And Kendel is a walking example of the toxic side of wellness self-improvement content marketed at young women and girls. Like I said before, I'm in no way saying that she's maliciously trying to sell you this fake lifestyle. Genuinely, what I find so interesting about Kendel is that she is the perfect example of someone who's consumed all of this kind of content because she wants to improve herself, because she isn't happy with who she currently is or where she currently is in her life. And she's genuinely taken all of this information, all of this guru feminine stuff on board.
That looks like a happy girl. This doesn't look like a happy girl. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. I think I'll smile a lot more, which will actually make me happier because it's proven that smiling makes you happier. So this is a good investment for me. This is girl math.
She religiously practices affirmations. She eats clean. She does Pilates in every single vlog. She'll use LED face masks, a variety of skincare products, gets facial acupuncture, Botox, goes for spa treatments, gets fillers, and consults with plastic surgeons.
I'm like really trying to, you know, be on that anti-aging game.
You know, there's something really sad about a 27-year-old going to a plastic surgeon to get onto that anti-aging game.
When I wake up with these, I don't wake up with the wrinkles in my chest. This is the neck one.
Yes, that was all done to prevent wrinkles in her neck and chest. I feel like the only winner in this situation is Amazon. A lot, and I mean a lot of work, money, irrational fear about looks and aging and producing aesthetic content for Instagram, for OnlyFans, for TikTok and YouTube goes into the life of someone who seemingly doesn't dream of labor or stress. Now, what I found telling in all of this was how Kendel revealed and acknowledged that her whole stay-at-home girlfriend era was simply a persona for social media. She didn't, in fact, like cleaning and running the home. She was incredibly unfulfilled and dissatisfied with her life. Her boyfriend didn't like her wearing the clothes she liked to wear, and he didn't support her passion for modeling, even though that was what made her happy. When Kendel writes that she is a stay-at-home girlfriend and a feminist, I cannot help but roll my eyes, and not because of the content itself. My eyes roll because there is nothing further away from feminism than falsely claiming that the submissive persona you've taken on benefits you more than your boyfriend, or saying that being more feminine, high value, and a homemaker is the life for you when you know that it really isn't. I don't have a problem with an influencer influencing their audience to do X. I have a problem with an influencer influencing their audience through a persona that the influencer herself doesn't fully understand. Influencing through a persona that is harming you is not feminist, and being a stay-at-home girlfriend is far too risky a persona to align with feminism. Centering Luke was actively harming Kendal's self-worth and very sense of self. In her Newsweek feature, Kendel ends off by saying, "I wouldn't say I want to encourage anyone else to live a similar lifestyle to me, because I don't think it's a good goal for people to have. If you're constantly looking for someone who will take care of you, I feel you're entering that relationship for the wrong reasons. But once women are already in this situation, I don't believe there is anything wrong with it. So it's wrong to get into that situation, but once you're in that situation, it's fine." As I said, Kendel is an unreliable narrator, which does make me a little bit skeptical of how fulfilling she finds, for instance, OnlyFans. When I look at everything she does in the service of being an Instagram model and OF creator, the strict and overly zealous skincare routines, the fixation with cosmetic procedures, constant fitness classes coupled with the cleanest of cleanest eating regimens I have ever seen, the airbrushed and carefully curated posts, I can't help but feel that this is all being done with the male gaze front and center. I think what Kendel believes, as is very human and very understandable, is that the validation of others, especially men, is evidence of her self-worth because it feeds her self-esteem. The problem is that these men and people aren't actually validating her. They're validating the persona. And behind the persona, it's evident that there's someone who's quite lost in terms of their self-identity, who's very introverted, and I would argue, just based on her vlogs, quite lonely. I do wish her the best, but please, to all influencers, to everybody, to anybody, stop adopting personas to please men. Be yourself, be happy, be free, but do let me know what you think. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little story time about somebody else. I do like telling a story about a person. It's quite fun looking into influencers and the weird and wonderful things that they do. So let me know what you think of this kind of content. Do give me a thumbs up and please do subscribe. Thank you so very much for your support as always. And I'll see all of you very, very soon in the next one. This is Jude. She is a very sweet border collie slash husky, I believe. And yes, she is my partner's the new woman in my partner's life. I am no longer the girl. You are indeed. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes. Oh. Hey, Jude.